Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Relationship School Smart Couple Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Gaddis. Grateful to be here. Thanks for listening in. We continue our series on men, and I just wanted to have a few conversations with men. And we get into interviewing some men of color around their experience as a man, with therapy, coaching, and transformation, and just being intimate with other men. So you're getting another take here that I think is really useful, okay? This podcast is about long-term partnership. It's about relationships and having good ones. It's about how do we do this well? How do we do friendship well? How do we do intimacy well? How do we do sex well? How do we do our relationship with ourselves well? All right? So there's loads and loads of interviews, and it's been fun. So we're going to keep going. Brandon Alexander is our guest today. I met him through Instagram, strangely. These days, I meet more and more people on Instagram and Facebook. It's very strange, and it's very cool. And Brandon has a little company called New Age Gentlemen, or New Age Gents on Instagram. And he lives in LA. He's from Texas. I actually was from Washington originally and then moved to Texas, and eventually LA to dance. And he's performed with Beyonce, folks. Raphael Sadiq and Jennifer Lopez. Okay, so this guy can move for reals. And he's also a very heart-centered dude. It's really evident here in this episode. What this was going to be was an interview about relationship and maybe some dating, and it turned into really we just kind of went down the rabbit hole of Brandon's story, and it's really inspiring and touching. And there's a few moments in here where I think you're going to appreciate just two men connecting in an intimate way. So also, if you're a man listening, please take notes on different parts of Brandon's story, because you may resonate or have clicked in some way, or you might be wanting and longing to have an experience like Brandon. Okay, there's just some pivotal moments that changed his life forever. So I think you're going to dig this. All right, so let's get into it. Here we go with Mr. Brandon Alexander. Yeah, what's up? Welcome to the show, Brandon Alexander. What's up, man?
Man, it's a good morning. It's a good morning to see your face. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, it's good to see your face too.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, welcome to the show, man. I've been tracking you on Instagram for a while, and we sort of became virtual buddies. Just having some shared values and experiences.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to have this conversation about men, partnership, race, love. So let's get into it, and maybe start with just a quick intro. How do you intro yourself to the listener right now? Would you just give us a little hit on you?
Yeah, man. Well, I'm the founder and creator of New Age Gents. It's interesting because I went from being a professional dancer to starting this platform for men that wants to help better them and teach them what it means to be a gentleman, and talk about love and dating and relationships and valuing that. But the transition was pretty seamless when it came to vulnerability and understanding, like, the more we're vulnerable, the more power we have, the more we can heal and understand. And my goal is to help as many men and young men heal and understand themselves and love themselves to the best of their ability. And the more good men we put in the world, the better place the world is, period. So that's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Okay, and give us a sense of, like, where do you live, and do you have a family, and married, divorced, stuff like that?
I live in LA. I'm very single in LA. I say single as F because it's been an interesting time navigating dating space. But no, I had my last relationship was, like, I want to say almost a year and a half to 2 years ago. So I've been single for a little while now, just enjoying that single journey.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so maybe you could give us some dating tips here too, shortly.
Please. I got it. Singles, talk to me. Holla at me. We can talk all day.
All right. Now, how did you become a man who wants to talk about vulnerability? Like, give us that story, because, you know, you and I both know that there's a lot of men who, for whatever reason, don't want to go to the vulnerable place. So how did
Right.
you get there?
Right. I think for me, I went through a season of the lack of vulnerability. I went through a season of lack of being honest with myself, and I went through a season of like being torn, like the old pieces of me being torn down of what I thought a man was supposed to be. Like I had all of these layers of what I thought a man was supposed to be in society, as far as fixing things and how he's supposed to show up and these different things in life. And but I wasn't happy. Like I really wasn't happy. Like I was hurting on the inside. And so through a couple of conversations and people that I had met in my life, and breaking down some very old antiquated ideas about life, it helped me to open up as a person. I mean, I come from Texas. I'm a Christian. So that in general is a very particular mindset and mind state. To move back to LA, it's going to challenge everything you know as a person. It's going to challenge every idea you have as a person. And I also didn't want to be a product of what I saw with a lot of Black men, which was you don't show emotion. You have to stay strong, and you have to be, by being strong in a lot of senses, it meant you had to be tough. It meant don't cry. It meant, don't tell someone the way you feel right away. You have to keep it together. And I found my power in starting to share. I'm still working on it now, but I found my power in starting to share and have those moments of transparency and vulnerability.
Wow. And when did this start for you? Like, how old were you when you started to share more about your vulnerability?
I would have to say it was around 22, 23. 22, 23. I was always like, I would always express myself through art forms because I was a dancer previously. So dance was my outlet for a while, but it wasn't verbal. So by the time I hit 20, something happened, something switched in me, and it was like, be more verbal about what you're feeling and you're expressing. And then that transitioned into having some mentors tell me, get your shit together. You need to talk. You got to talk, because if you're not talking, I can't help you if you don't say anything. I can't be here for you if you don't say anything, right? And so around 22, 23, I just felt like God brought these mentors in my life and these people around me, this village of people who loved the calluses off of me. I had this thing with my dad where I would be really upset about my dad, but I wasn't really using my words. I was just saying all the hateful things and all the bitter things. But what I wasn't saying is I felt rejected. I wasn't saying I felt that I wanted to be loved. I wasn't saying that I didn't feel worthy, because those are the words that really are underneath any type of bitterness and resentment. So 22, 23 was that corner for me. That was the corner where I learned what healthy relationship looked like. And it wasn't about hooking up and just sex, great faces. Like 22, 23 was a turning point for me.
Yeah, killer. And was there something that happened like at 22, 23? Did you like fall down and hit your face really hard, like metaphorically? Or was it just a slow kind of gradual, like, wait, this isn't working for me?
I think it was the first time in my life I felt like people saw me. Like they could see me and I couldn't hide my bullshit. Like I just couldn't hide it, right? And I think luckily enough, they weren't afraid to call me out and call me up.
And who are you talking about? Like, who's they?
So they are. So I met I met some dancers when I moved out here, and one of them, his name is Michael Wilson. He's like a big brother to me. But Michael, for me, was one of the first people to kind of take me on my path and my road of vulnerability. We'd have some really tough conversations, about different things, whether it's about love or my family or whatever the case may be. And in the private moments we would have in conversation, I would practice and exercise in public or with other people. So it was a slow process of whatever we did in private, I would go practice publicly. Ooh, so whether it was having a tough conversation, and whatever was a tough conversation, sometimes he would just be like, how are you doing? And my whole body would tighten up, because I was like, I don't know if I want to tell him how I'm really doing, because normally we'll be like, I'm good, I'm okay. And he's a Black man. He's another Black man. Because we're going to get into that. But for him to have that, he was something new for me, because I didn't come from that. I didn't really see that a lot. Maybe it's because he's a dancer, maybe because he's another Christian or whatever the case may be. But there was something about him that just drew me to him in a way that kind of liberated the younger me.
Totally. It sounds like he was genuinely interested in what was really going on also.
What's really going on with me. Like he sees me now, because like, I don't know, I can go on a tangent about this man, but we can go now like a year right? And we'll see each other. And there's this interesting moment of thank you for getting me here, and him having this like moment of appreciation that like you've really done the work. Like I love who you've grown into.
Yeah.
You know, we did a panel together like 6 months ago. I had him on a panel that I was doing. He was afterwards, he was like, "You really are my brother. You're my little brother. Listening to you talk, like it's gone beyond friend. It's gone beyond mentor. It's gone beyond whatever other labels people need. We're brothers. That's our thing."
Yeah.
But he was kind of very pivotal. I had some women in my life too, because man, women will soften all of your edges. I mean, they were like really there for me as a young man, trying to navigate the space of wanting genuine and real love, but thinking I could find it in like a one night stand, or I could find it in a bunch of hookups. They would kind of call me out on that. Like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?
Right.
You're not built like that. You're not built that way. This is why when you come talk to us, you don't feel satisfied. This is why when you come talk to us about these girls you're interacting with, you're not happy." And it took I'm a little hard headed, so it took a little bit longer for that thing to, it took a little longer for me to get away from the hooking up and sex. Like, "Oh, what do you mean I shouldn't be hooking up without emotion? It feels good." Like feeling good and feeling fulfilled are two different feelings.
Absolutely. So I've got so many questions.
Please.
When we back up to your story, you said, black men, you're not allowed to cry, et cetera. Now, over here being a white guy, my experience is, well, that's the messages I got. So do you think there's I think there's an added layer for black men?
Yes, there is, for sure.
The racism and the white-centered society we live in. But would you say, in your experience, black and white were similar there? Where like there's not a lot of difference. Men kind of indoctrinate each other into being tough and don't showing emotion, or would you say there's a difference between races there?
I really don't know who started the narrative, but I hate it. For one, let me start there. I don't know, and it could be because there was a time in America where we were going to war, and men of all colors had to be tough. We were going overseas, and we were trying to protect our freedoms, to protect the world. So I don't know if that was the turn of men becoming, from some books I've read, they say that's what happened, is that we went to war and we came back beyond callous and we lost emotion. But I think the similarities are there. I think culturally there is a like a very small nuanced difference in the layering of why you shouldn't show emotion, right? I think when I look at Black society, I look at Black men who are being told to be strong, it's so that no one takes advantage of them for being honest about how they feel and where they are. Because if you're seen as weakness, they know right from Jump Street, they can take it away from you, right? That's why I think being a gay Black man was considered a sign of weakness, because he was in touch with his feminine side. This is what I've always associated it with, but he's more in touch with a feminine side, which led to him being more expressive emotionally. But if you're outside of football or shouting at church or whatever the case may be, you weren't really allowed to be that expressive as a man. And so I think there was a bit of taboo and kind of judgment pushed around that. And then you had the church on top of that. You have that separation there. But to be a straight Black man, it was almost rare to see a man openly say, I want to be here for you. I love you, whatever the case may be.
I feel scared. Yeah.
I feel scared. One of the main examples is my dad and I, who we're good now, by the way, for the record, we're good now. But when I was 18 or 19, when I moved to LA, I was walking down the street one day, we're on the phone, and I was like, "You never say I'm proud of you. You never say I love you." He was like, "Well, I'm proud of you, Brandon. You know that." And I was like, "Yeah, but I don't know that. Like, I need to hear you say it." And I was like, especially even like a love you thing. And he's like, "Well, that's just not what we do. That's not, your grandfather didn't do it. I'm not going to do it, but I'm proud of you, whatever." But it felt like very reluctant. And I said to him in that conversation, I said, how it was isn't how it has to be. Because Pop did that with you, you don't have to do that with me. But there was still this resistance, if you will, to trying something outside of what he'd been programmed and experienced his entire life and what was normal. But I told myself, I don't want to do that to my son when I have one, if I have one, God willing. I want to be able to look my son in the face and say to him, if he knows that his father is present, his father loves him. I may not, and there is a line between coddling and like, you know, and being affirming your son. But I want my son to know the warmth of my hug. I want my son to know the kiss of my lips on his forehead or his cheek, or that I'm proud of him, or to put my. I've seen dads and sons where they've got their arm around their shoulder and they're just hanging out talking about sports, or they're hanging out talking about something. You know, I want to be able to give my son that feeling of understanding that male affection is not something to be shunned, but something to be embraced, because it heals parts of you. It heals parts of you that no one else can heal. It heals parts of you that awaken and call you to manhood in a way that I think a lot of men miss. Now, where I'm so sorry for this tangent, but it's something I'm very passionate about, is that the direct connection between maybe your biological father didn't give it to you, but that's where mentors come into play. That's where other men that love you come into play, and you allow them into this space that a man may not be willing to step into, but you need to be ready to allow someone to step into that space so that you can get that love that you need, because it's necessary. It's necessary for every man to know what it feels like to have another man love them without an agenda, without expectations, and to call them up and to call them out as man.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a son? Because you keep saying my son. Is this your future son, or do you have a son?
Future son. But that's what I was saying. God willing, I have a son. I don't have a son. I've seen him in my dreams, though. I've seen him.
Nice.
So
okay. All right. So we're talking about race, and maybe there's, to me, absolutely an added layer, or many, right, for a black man to open up.
Right.
And I'm really getting that as I sort of wake up to my white privilege here.
Sure.
If we back up another step, being a dancer, if you're a boy and you like to dance, depending on the type of dance, right?
Depending on type of dance, yeah.
Right. I'm curious if you got hazed or ridiculed or made fun of for being a boy who was into dance versus football or, you know, soccer or whatever. Like, was that a part of your journey where you had to navigate judgment from other men or women being a male dancer? Like, because to me, that's in certain male circles, right? It's like, you're feminine, you're gay, you're whatever, if you're a dancer.
I've seen it. In my experience, I came from a family of that had a reputation in my hometown. So it really didn't, if I were dancing at a party or something, people just knew better. So I kind of got lucky in that aspect.
So you came from like a lineage of dancers, so it was normal.
No. I'm talking about fighting, like fighting. Like I grew up in a very small town hood situation. So it was like, you don't talk shit about Quan's little brother. Like, you just don't. You don't fuck with nobody over there. And if you did, then there'd be a problem. So I never really had to. I really kind of got lucky in that aspect of like the respect. Though some people wouldn't see it as respect, but the respect that was around my family, in the house that I grew up in a sense. And me too. Like I fought a lot, and like when I was growing up in middle school and high school. So not because I was a dancer, but I did. So no one ever really tried me. No one ever really. But I've seen it. I've seen it done to other men. I've seen other men be ridiculed and looked at and questioned as if he's gay. And then when I moved out to LA, you opened up a world of limitless possibilities being a heterosexual male dancing. That's where I think a lot of my healing needed to come in, because I had unlimited, endless possibilities of beautiful women who knew that the population of straight men to gay was like, I don't know, 30 to 1, you know? So, but no, I've seen it though. I will say I have to acknowledge that some men are judged because they decide to dance, seen as soft their week, or choosing that path as opposed to what someone else's family. I actually have a friend who the family wanted him to go one way and do a particular career path, and then he chose dance. And so there was some turmoil in choosing dance because the profession. Not because they thought he was soft or weak, but they didn't think that the career path was concrete enough. Yeah, they didn't think it was stable enough. Yeah. But as far as like the vulnerability thing and the being weak thing, I've seen it. I see more so people being judged for the lack of consistency in income. They don't see it as a real job. Yeah, it's like you're an artist, right? That's what I got, because I was an artist for a while. I called myself an artist in high school, and then I was an art major for a year.
And most of the response I got was, what are you going to do with that? You know,
how you can take care of your family, how you can take care of yourself. Yeah.
And then I started to doubt myself because I heard it enough times. Right. And I was vulnerable in that I was susceptible to listening to other people instead of my own voice.
Right.
So it sounds like you had a real, if I'm hearing you right, a really supportive upbringing in terms of be you, Brandon, be you, but you also, it was complicated by other messages you got that were like, don't be vulnerable.
Right.
So you got support around being a dancer, but you, as being a boy, growing man, you got sort of like the stereotypical suck it up kind of thing.
So funny. I as you're saying that, the first thing that came to mind is my older brother and I. So part of that fighting thing I was talking about, this is something that's kind of surfaced later in life, but I think he might have thought he had a lesson or wisdom in it. But I would be so emotionally congested that if I ever got upset, I wouldn't say anything. Like I would go completely silent and I would start to shake. Right. And then if something happened, I would completely explode. I mean, and this moment might actually be a bigger turning point, if anything, in my life. It was my junior going into my senior year. I was playing football. My family was going through a rough time. Our water was cut off. Our electricity was cut off at the time. But I had made shirts for the whole football team for the summer. But I didn't know how to really express my frustrations, what was going on at home.
Okay.
And so I go to the football game and I get ready to get on the field and something happens. Something happens between me and this other guy who I'm fighting for a position with. And this is a big day, really, 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 really big day. I was actually just telling Brian Reeves about this story. A really big day. And all the coaches were there. Normally all the coaches aren't there. All the head coaches aren't there. But long and short of it, I explode in the stadium full of parents, in front of 4 other high school teams, in front of my high school head coach, my position coach. And I'm calling this, and I'm talking to a coach. I'm calling him every word in the book. I even start saying like, you're a dick rider, you're this, you're that, blah, 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 blah. But I'm crying uncontrollably. And one of the coaches, he grabs me and says, son, you got to calm down. But I couldn't calm down. I couldn't. And I remember in that moment, I couldn't stop myself. I wanted to hit the button and I couldn't hit the button. But my older brother and I, we talked about moments like that in my life. And I think one of the biggest components in my healing is understanding how to express more so that I don't have those moments, because I don't want to repeat something that I've seen in the past in my life. I don't want to shut people out. I don't want to explode on my wife one day. I don't want to explode on my kids because dad's had enough and they don't see it coming. And then all of a sudden I've exploded on everyone and now they're walking on eggshells. I never wanted to do that. But something my brother would do is we would physically fight. We would get into fights. We would go at it. And that he would tell me, it's like, I don't think you ever knew how strong you were. I wouldn't show it, but I don't think you ever knew how strong you were. So what I did is I took what he said and I applied that to my emotions. And I said to myself, if I could hit that hard, I can love that hard.
Wow. That's huge. Yeah.
So
damn. Yep. Whew, that one hit me. Thanks. Yeah. And, I'm just reflecting on, I've got this image of you out on the field, just sobbing and raging at the same time. Right.
Yeah.
And it brought me back to a memory of mine, in college, at several times like this, where my repressed rage, I'm not saying that's what was going on with you, but for me, it was my repressed rage. I was on drugs and, I'd done some LSD and was drinking a lot, and it came out, like one trigger, someone rubbed me the wrong way and I just went ballistic and, just lost my marbles on a bunch of guys. And, long story short, I got put in my place when, 10 guys were trying to restrain me, basically.
Wow.
And for me, it was repressed rage. So I'm curious for you, do you have a sense of what was bottled up in there?
I never got down into the layers far enough. But if we're having the conversation and we're just talking uh, openly, I would say there was a sense of inadequacy in life. We're not doing well at home. I'm fighting for this football position. The deep down desires for my dad to be around, but he's not here. I had a lot of friends in high school who had both their parents. So I saw it all the time. And I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, I just want a male figure to be in the stand at my football game saying, go son, go. So it was a very, very deep rooted pain. And I really just felt like inadequacy came up. And so when he was on the field, the guy was pretty much pushing me off. He was like, get off the field. And the other coach was supposed to back me up. We had a rotation going. And the fact that he did not accept me triggered me in a way that I just said, I've had it.
That makes sense.
No one else is going to tell me I'm not enough and it's not my time now. Mm-hmm. No one else. It's weird because I don't want to be emotional right now as I'm talking about it out loud. This is the first time I've talked about it and processed it out loud. Mm-hmm. I was tired of not being told that it's my time. It's not my time to shine. It's not my time to win. It's not my time to be successful. It's not my time to have the life that I want and I dreamed of.
Mm. Damn.
God dang it, Jason. Shit, man. God.
I got chills over here, dude.
Yeah, I'm like, ugh. So, yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, so it makes sense. You were so upset, dude. Like, of course. Yeah. Being told it's not your time. Nope, you don't get to do this. Nope. You were like, right? Yeah. Like coming up against that belief in yourself and other people's belief in you. It's just like the shackles came off or something. It's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, it's inspiring,
The best thing that happened afterward is some random mom. It's one of my old teammates' moms, but my mom wasn't there at the time. She wasn't at the game. She couldn't make it. And she found me. My coaches told me, you're banned from the stadium. This is it. Your senior season. You can't come. Like, you're done for the senior season. You're done. Sure. And this mom found me. She found me where the entrance is to the stadium, and she just hugged me. And she held me. And she just kept saying, baby, it's going to be okay. Baby, it's going to be okay. Baby, it's going to be okay. How are you getting home? Because I rode with one of the teammates. I was like, I don't know. My house was like 20 miles from the stadium. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, and she just held me in that moment. And it was what I needed. It was exactly what I needed. I was met with love because I think someone saw me hurting and said, I'm going to love you. And I think that moment is the moment that genuine friendships and relationships can have for us. It may come from a stranger, but I think there's nothing more powerful than someone holding you in your most broken and most vulnerable of moments and saying, I'm here for you. I love you. And it's going to be all right. Like,
yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Whew. I mean, I'm getting the contrast of like, you're banned from the stadium. It's like the ultimate rejection, right?
Yep.
You're not allowed here anymore. And then in that, just moments later, you're accepted with open arms as you are.
Yeah.
That contrast is so stark, right?
This is all at 17, like at 17, and it painted a lot for me to kind of process and go through, as a person. One thing I think is men we don't talk about enough is the fear of rejection. We don't talk about that in dating. A lot of men want to pretend like they either got it all together or they'll laugh it off and joke it off and be like, oh, she's just a slut. She doesn't want me because she wants blah, 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 like it's just a car. In reality, you're just upset that she rejected you. She said it was a no for her. But you don't know how to process what's going on.
Yeah. It's like you said at the beginning of the call, like men won't, it's hard for them to take responsibility for the more vulnerable experience because I feel scared, I feel rejected. Yep. So I'm going to blame the outside. I mean, that was definitely part of my story, was making the woman wrong because I felt so inadequate and lost in my life and so jammed up emotionally,
Yeah.
So it seems like that 17-year-old time, like it was almost like I don't know. I wonder, I'm just making the connection between your 23, 24-year-old self when the vulnerability, you got the real supportive environment that started allowing and wanting that part of you more.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like, I don't know, my story over here is at 17, that was like one of the first experiences you had of really going vulnerable in a big way. And, you were met with both rejection and support. And then it's like a few years of probably being pretty confused. And then at 23, 24, you felt really held in a community so you could start letting your guard down more. I don't know if that's...
No, that I've never had. I honestly, I've never had this conversation. This conversation is so brand new to me. Like, I've had talks about the chapters, but there was never this, like, I want to see how this over here was correlated to 17 you. I wasn't expecting this call. I swear to God. So everything in me is like, wow.
What are you getting right now?
Well, what I'm getting is at 18, I didn't know what to do because my whole high school career, I was benched. I didn't get to play. They were going to put me in the last game of the season because they're like, you're a senior, so we're going to put you in the last game of the season. But I was benched my whole senior season, so I had to go to every game. But I was committed. I was like, I cannot give up on something I put so much time and effort into. By God's goodwill, something's going to happen. Nothing happened. Nothing changed. And the last game of the season came, and I remember watching the clock strike 0. And I thought to myself, this is it. And one of my coaches who yelled at me for cussing, my house wasn't far from my high school. So the stadium and high school took place, but he drove by in his truck. He saw me cutting the grass. He got it out. And he said, Brandon, you know what we talked about the next day after the last game? We didn't talk about that we should have won. We didn't talk about how we should have gone to the playoff. He talked about how you didn't explode and how you didn't lose your mind on all of us. And we're really proud of you for not doing that. He said, so if you ever want a recommendation to a JUCO or something to play football, he said, you've got my recommendation. But that was met with the feeling of, well, what do I do with this? Where do I go from here? Mm-hmm. And I was torn between, do I run away, which I did. I tried my best. I said, I have to leave this city because there was so much pain in somewhere that I loved.
Yeah. And
I was like, I gotta go. What do I do? And I had this little thing in my pocket called dance. And I said, I'm gonna find a way to do this. And so anyway, moving to LA, I was still met with another choice. My mom said to me, she says, well, you can come. My mom was contracting overseas. She said, you can come overseas and you can contract with me at 18, making $6,000 to $7,000 a month, or you stay and you do dance. Here's this idea of security and stability, right? And here's this idea of pursuing a dream and passion, vulnerability. I chose the passion of vulnerability. I cannot tell you how fulfilled. I can't tell you how fulfilled I am by choosing my heart and by choosing what felt right to me and not choosing the money and the security and the safety, because I promise you, I probably would have never met the people that I know now.
Right.
I wouldn't have the experiences I have now. Gosh, I would not be living the life that I live right now if I chose safety over stepping into something so unknown, so unsure, and following it and allowing myself to be there for me. So,
yeah, dude, powerful. Wow, I love how you're making these connections. Like I'm over here just blown away that this young man would have the courage to choose dance in this thing, like you said, this little thing in my back pocket.
Yeah.
Because you've been sort of rejected in the football scene, benched, not given a shot, but you were committed. You're like, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to just show up anyway. I mean, that's a whole chapter right there of like the kind of young man that it takes to be like, oh, fuck you guys, you're not good enough. And I'm going to like, that was more my style. You're like, no, I'm going to show this whole respect thing. And like, I respect myself. I'm going to show up to get benched. And then this thing in your back pocket. I mean, the way you described it, it's like this little, it's this little thing.
Right. It's a possibility.
Because Right. But I'm going to choose it because some part of me knows that that's where I love to dance. I love to move my body. I love to, and you follow that instead of the safety security thing, which is just, I don't know, feels heroic to me. That you knew yourself, right? You knew yourself like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wise young man to me. Because, dude, as well as I do, a lot of people are 50 and not making that choice over and over, year after year.
Yeah. That's beyond true.
Too scary.
Yes.
Right?
It's too scary. It's too scary to step out on. And even as we're talking, I'm just like, I don't think I've really fully kind of stepped back and just looked at it. I mean, I'm 30 now, I'll be 31 in July. And the last month has been crazy gratitude, like crazy gratitude. And before we hopped on the call, I said to myself, I'm grateful that I get to sit and have this conversation. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm grateful to have this conversation. And as we're talking, sure enough, so I hope that whoever is listening, whether it's a man or a woman or a mother or a father or a child, because what we're doing right now is we're as my friend says, we're going into our heart, we're leaning into our heart. We're doing that right now. I pray that they go into their hearts and they look at their lives and the choices that they're making and that they've made, and that they stay in their heart. They don't leave it, because it's
Mm-hmm.
home. That's home.
Yeah.
Go into your heart. That's home.
That's home, man. Yep. Have the courage to go there, right? So what would you say to a man he's a little scared and a little locked up to go in there and he doesn't even know how? What's a first move you might say to do for him? What could he do?
It may not be what he can do, it's what he can stop doing, I think. I think one of the things I had to stop doing was I would hold on to emotions. So I still do it now sometimes. Even now talking to you, I feel the waves of emotion, because I could be a fucking mess right now on this podcast. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling myself, feel through it. It's scary. You're shaking. I'm shaking over here. Like I've got my eyes are swelling up, but I would tell him to feel through whatever it is that he's feeling. If it's rejection, if it's anger, if it's sadness, if it's happiness, even if it's joy, allow the joy to fully go through you, not stop it at a certain point. Sometimes we'll stop the joy. We'll like cap it off and be like, all right, this is the safe zone of joy, because I feel anything more than this, I have to stop. I noticed the other day, you get really, really happy. You start to say like the dorkiest shit. You do the craziest things. You start singing and humming, and you're like, why am I singing and humming? Because you're just so overfilled with joy. Yeah. Don't stop that because you want to feel safe. So I would tell him, start to feel that shit. Feel it. Mm-hmm. Feel it. Let it rush through your entire body, from the tip of your head to your toes. Like let it go through you. And in that, you'll discover something. Yeah, and you're Brandon. You're modeling it on this podcast. You've sighed a few times, and you're noticing the contraction come up. It seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, and then you're like feeling it, like relaxing into it, right? Letting it happen. Yeah. So it's like, you might listen to this podcast again and watch and listen as Brandon's doing it, because he's modeling really how to do it. Because maybe you grew up with a dad that didn't know, you don't know how, is kind of your story. I don't know how. I loved what you said. And I would just want to reiterate this, which is, see if you can feel the tension, feel how much you're bracing right now, and just relax a notch, right? It's like, for the guy on the call, just relax another notch. Because once you start to relax that tension, that's when the emotion and the feeling can come through a little bit. And that's where freedom is. That's where your heart is. That's what people want from you. That's what your wife wants, your girlfriend, your friends. Like, we want your heart, right? Yes, man. So thanks for showing us how, dude. Man, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. 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 It's really sweet too. Yeah. It's, I think I'm getting the intuition I had of why we should talk is what's happening between us right now, because you just are, you're a man who I just genuinely naturally want to connect with and I'm interested in. So that's all I'm doing, right? Is I'm following my own curiosity
about you and who you are. And I just love your willingness to follow and listen and lead, and like it's like, whoa, it's cool.
Yeah.
Oof. All right. Well, we're wow, this is not where I thought we'd go.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. But I think this is extremely valuable for people listening. And again, especially if you're a man out there listening. And just, again, I personally love male intimacy, and this is male intimacy right here. It's two men just getting real.
This shit got real. This got so real.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's really powerful. So notice if you're listening, you're longing for this in your life, like maybe you surround yourself with guys who just want to talk about the game or whatever, and you don't know how. It's like there's so many men like Brandon here that are opening up. They're just leading with their heart. They're saying, come on, guys, let's do this. They're around. And you, as a listener, can take this conversation, the next conversation with your male friend, deeper by just going there. Talk about something painful from your past. Ask the other guy, hey, what about what happened to you when you were 17? Or just curious. And I'm curious what else you would say to a guy like, how could a man out there have this, begin to have this type of conversation with another man or his girlfriend for that matter?
Honesty.
On a date.
I would say honesty is really there's a very fine line, or I would say between honesty and hiding, right? I think what we do sometimes when a moment requires an honest response, we will hide. And you've now robbed yourself of the opportunity of what could come next. And so if someone next time says, how are you doing? You don't have to give them your full life story, but answer honestly and see where that leads. The next time she says, well, how do you feel about this? Answer honestly. Don't have to give her a full backstory, and see where that leads you to. Because every time now in my adult life, when someone's like, how are you doing? How's life? I stop before I answer. I don't just say I'm fine. I don't say I'm good. I'll say, I'll think about it. I'll think about, okay, cool. I'm grateful. I feel good. Life is great right now, but I'm grateful more than anything. How are you doing? Mm-hmm. That may be to them off-putting, or it may put them in a position to now answer honestly because they know I didn't give them some generic ass answer to move along with the conversation. I'm good, man. How are you? You good? How's work? Like it's such an automatic response. It's almost like someone hit autoplay and you're like, don't hit autoplay. The more we hit autoplay in life, the more we take ourselves from real interactions with real people to have real connections. That's what we do. Totally.
Yeah. And another option for you is to say, well, I want to say I'm fine to you, but I know that would be bullshit. And I'm really not fine. I'm really not fine at all. I don't even know what I am, but I'm not fine. I'm challenged. My life is challenging as fuck right now. I don't know which way is up. And that's what's true. That's what's honest for me. How are you?
Preach. Preach.
That's what I want. Those are the kind of people I want to relate to. And so Brandon's suggesting a really good, really an action step here we'll probably do at the end of the call, which is just next time someone asks you, you're fine, just make a commitment to not bullshit them and just tell the truth, just as an experiment and see what happens. And some people who are like, oh, you're not fine. Oh shit. Let me make it better. Like you'll get really interesting information, right? About some people want to rescue you if you're not doing fine. Yes. Some people will roll their eyes at you, or like, you're going to get some really interesting responses. And I think that's a really valuable experiment. And eventually a practice that you can actually do every day. Right.
Yeah. And I would also say, pay attention to the people that hold space, who don't try and fix, who don't try and, what Jason did was amazing. I think he wasn't trying to get me here. He just was here for me. And then you just being here for me, I was able to do whatever I needed to. And you just held space for whatever the fuck came. You held space for the waves. You held space for the ocean. I think that's how big love can be, is when you can hold space for somebody. Your arms are wide enough to stretch across an ocean and take every wave as it embraces it as it comes. And some days it may be a lake, and it may be a little quick boop, but hold space in that and not say, well, I need it to be bigger or where's more. If they give you just a drop of water, then you take that drop of water and you hold it. If they give you the ocean that day, you hold space for the ocean and you hold it. But you trying to contain it and hold on to it or try and fix it, it's not what people need. It's not what they need.
Yeah. And in an intimate relationship, it's going to shut down the intimacy, right? So, I'll just say heterosexual language here, even though I know this applies to all humans, is if you're with a woman who, is emotional and she's going through something, most women just want you to hold space, as Brandon's saying. They want you to just be there, be present, and you don't need to fix it or change her or try to get away from it or make her emotions go away. It's really, can you hold the enormity of what she's going through? And if you can't, often that's information about you. It's your capacity is small, like mine used to be. I had a really narrow bandwidth for emotion for a decade in my 20s. And I had to learn in my 30s how to get bigger inside of me so I could hold more emotion over there. I had to learn how to hold more in here, Yeah. So it's just, it's you're being shown where your work is. And like Brandon said, you're a strong man, most likely, like he was, especially that story he told. It's like, you could probably punch really fucking hard, but do what he did, which is try loving really hard and, stepping into that capacity in yourself.
Amen. My goodness. Amen.
Well, dude, it's been a real pleasure here. Just being with you and hearing your story and just receiving your heart and your truth and your wisdom. Thank you so much.
This has been great, man. It really, I can't even tell you what it feels like over here, but I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy it today for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Brandon, where can people find, if they want to get in touch with you, where can people find you?
You guys can find me at New Age Gents on Instagram, New Age Gents on Facebook. I also have a website, newagegents.com. I'm not doing this, I'm not promoting, but I did wear my sweater on purpose. You can get your sweater. I have merchandise. Just if you want something that has a meaning to it, it's why I made the merchandise. It has a meaning. It's more than just clothing. It's like I've made a choice. I've made a choice to be a gentleman. I'm making a daily choice to be this particular person. I didn't just wake up this way. I wasn't just naturally this way. I'm making a choice to be the best version of myself I can be each day. Yeah.
Hell yeah. So inspiring. Okay, man. Thanks so much. We'll include Brandon's New Agents links in the show notes. And dude, thanks for who you are.
Amazing, man. Thank you. Have an amazing day.
Okay. Wow. That was, deep connection there, right? And intimacy between men here. And you'll notice, I was just following my curiosity. That's all I was doing. I was like, well, wait, I want to know about that. And I could have asked him so many more questions I was curious about. I wanted to know even more, limited time. So your action step, besides following New Agents on Instagram and looking him up, is to, next time someone asks, hey, how's it going? How are you? Slow down and be honest. And you could even say that. Hold on, let me check in with myself. I am well. Yeah, I feel like a lot is going well for me. Or not well. I'm struggling in my relationship. I'm doing well in my finances or my fitness, but I'm struggling in my relationship. How are you doing? Like, see if you can go to the next level of transparency and honesty. So I love this simple tip from Brandon. And I remember a period of time in my life when I did this. When I first went to therapy, I got tired of that question. How are you doing? And my stock response is really what I got tired of. So I started being more honest, and it drove some people away and it drew some people in. And it was extremely good practice. I did it for years. And it's fine to have your social groups where you just say, fine, everything's great. And that's okay. But pick a couple people where you want to get more honest, right? And answer more honestly. Love that. Make it a practice. Okay? Excellent. Okay, make sure you're following us in the Smart Couple Facebook group. Go to your Facebook search bar, just type in Monogamy Smart Couple, boom, ask to join the group. And we'd love to see you in there. leave us a review on iTunes if you're getting something out of this podcast. 200 something episodes. At the very least, if you've listened to 10 or 30 or more, my challenge to you is you can give back to us by saying thank you by leaving us a review on iTunes. That's all I'm asking. All right. You can do that on your phone, right from your phone. Just pull it up on iTunes and just, or from you can do it on Stitcher too. Okay. That would be amazing. All right. Thanks, guys. Hey, thanks so much for listening. Relationship School fans and Smart Couple listeners, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. All right. Do us a favor, subscribe, share one of these videos with a friend. All right. We want to help the planet get their act together around relationships, and you are one of them. So thank you.